What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be working on the Piscifun Venom VM4000. I'm going to show you guys how to service this reel. Okay, so before we even get started, let me tell you guys what you're going to need. You're going to need a rag, you're going to need a star screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, some cotton swabs, grease and oil. I'm using Pan Precision grease and Pan Precision reel oil. You guys can use whatever you like. You're going to need WD-40 and you're going to need needle nose pliers. Alright, so just so you guys know, Piscifun does provide the schematics for the VM4000 series reel right here. Okay, you have all the parts, the way it goes, exactly how it is in order, and you have the part numbers right here and the part names. So if you guys ever need to order parts from Piscifun, you have it right there. You know exactly what you're getting. Alright, you guys, now that we have all that out the way, we're going to go ahead and start working on the Piscifun Venom VM4000 series reel. The first thing we're going to do is remove the spool, and we're going to start with the drag assembly that's inside. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is remove the drag button right here. By going counterclockwise, we can unscrew this right here right quick. Okay, like so, and we're going to see if it pops out. Okay, there she is. That's basically what's going to look like inside, right? But we're not going to worry about all this right now. We're going to put that to the side, and we're going to start with the drag assembly. Alright, you guys, now that we have the spool removed from the main body of the reel, we're going to go ahead and remove this button right here. We're going to set that aside, and we're going to look at this part right here. This is a retainer wire for the washers that you see in here. This is your drag assembly that's inside. Now, if you notice, there's a groove that goes all the way around inside the spool where this retainer sits. Now, the wire itself does have an opening where we have to, where it allows you to pop it open. But first, we're gonna have to put our finger on one side, like so, and we're gonna have to pop that out with a flat screwdriver. There you go. See how it is? If you don't do that, this wire will fly away, and it's gonna be hard to find later. So now that we have that removed, let me show you what it looks like. Pretty much looks like that. Okay, see it? That's the opening right here. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and set that aside. Now, the easiest way to get to your drag washers is to flip the entire spool over and give it a hard tap on a hard surface. Just like so. Alright, everything comes out in reverse. Now remember, don't mess with it. Leave it in reverse and set that aside. Okay? Now we're going to take our Q-tip, go inside there, clean it all out. Make sure everything is good. You don't have no grit, no sand, anything like that. If you have water, if you dunk this thing in water, I suggest using WD-40. Spray it all out and wipe it down with a rag. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and drop a couple of drops of oil in there, like so. Take cotton swab. Make sure it's all spread evenly everywhere along this spool assembly part. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and start with our drag washers. As the way you see it right here, we're going to go back the way it came out. All right, so it goes in reverse. Now, some people like to use grease or oil, and some people like to use grease. I'm just going to be using oil. So you put a little bit of oil on there, spread it all the way around. This is a carbon fiber drag. All right, make sure you got all the way around, make sure everything is even, and you just start assembling it in reverse the way it came out. What you're doing with the steel washers is you're going to start removing any grit that you feel. If you feel anything on there, like little scratches or anything, you can buff that out with a buffing compound and a rag. Don't use sandpaper. That will just destroy your drag. Okay, and the same thing, we're going to keep going with the oil. Making sure that's all the way around. Alright, now here's one that you're going to notice that's totally different from the rest of the washers. This one has little ears. Let me see if I can show you that up close. Okay, you see that? Those are the dog ears. Basically, that's holding down the 3 washers that you have already down here. And there's 2 little grooves, one here on this side and one on this side. That's exactly where it goes. It just fits in there. Just flip it in like so, and it should lock in right there. Okay, and we're going to continue with the rest of the drag. Right, all that's left to do now is to replace the retaining washer. The retaining, not the retaining washer, the retaining, the retainer. It goes back into the groove, and we're just gonna slide all that in until you hear it pop in. All right, we're gonna take our flat screwdriver, make sure it's in there nice and tight, and we're in the groove. There we go. Perfect. We just serviced our drag system right there. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and give that a nice little wipe down with our rag on the outside, a little bit on the inside, clean it all up. Okay, now we're going to start with the under part of the spool. First things first, we're going to wipe off any excess water, dirt, sand, whatever you might have in there. Okay, like I said before, if you've dunked this in salt water, WD-40 all over and wipe it down with the rag. All right, once you have done that, you're going to notice there is a little spring right here. See that right there? Okay, this is a clicker lever right here. Okay, all that does is when it's on the main rotor, like so, see if I can get on there. Oh, there we go. It makes that noise. Okay, so what we're gonna do, like I said, after you've wiped everything down, a little drop of oil on the clicker lever and on that spring. You're also gonna notice that there is a little piece of plastic right here. Okay, that goes straight through your spool, comes out to this little triangular thing right here. What that little triangular thing is for is to put your line in here, and it holds down the line while you're servicing or while you're traveling. So that makes a great little thing to get it out the way. It won't be flying everywhere. And basically we're done with the spool. Awesome job. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and service the button that we removed from the spool. You're going to notice a rubber gasket all the way around here. All that does, you just pop that out with your finger, like so. We're going to go ahead and wipe down any excess dirt, grit, anything that's in there. And like I said before, if you dunked it in salt water, WD-40 is going to be your best friend. Spray it all out. Wipe off the excess with the rag. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and put grease all over it. Get inside there too, all right? Just like so. Using a Q-tip, spread it all around. Make sure you get all the metal parts because that's going to help protect it from rust. Okay. And we're going to clean up the gasket. You're going to notice that the gasket's like a cone shaped, and it does have a little raised part right here. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me see if I can get close enough. You see that? It's got a little raised section right there. This part goes to the bottom, and it all just snaps right back into place. All right? Now we're going to use the grease just a little bit on your finger, and we're going to put it on that metal part right there. That's because this is the part that touches your drag washers the most, so we want that to be a little bit oiled up. Not over oiled, but just enough. Okay? And basically wipe down the top, the sides. See that? All right, so we're done. We're pretty much done with that. We're going to set that aside. Okay, now here comes the fun of the fun. We're going to start working on the rotor itself. Okay, this is the rotor part and the rotor assembly all together right here. So basically we're going to start with the, let's see, what is this, the line roller right here. Okay, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to remove the screw that's right here. Just remove the screw. Set that aside. Okay, now we're going to gently pull this out. Don't bend the wire in any way. You just want to gently pull it out like so. And we're going to remove the line roller. You see right there? That is the line roller. We're going to set that aside. We're going to go ahead and take our Q-tip, clean up this entire area right here, the housing for the roller. All right. Now here's where things get a little funky. We're going to switch over from from oil, and we're going to put some grease in there. All right. Get it all in there. Perfect. Now we're going to go ahead and open our bale carefully, and you're going to notice that there is a washer in here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's a washer right there. We're going to gently remove that with a flat screwdriver. So if we can get it out. Okay. There we go. And we're going to go ahead and clean that out with a Q-tip. Again, we're going to use a little bit of grease. Some people like oil. We're going to put grease. Not so much, just like so. We're going to go ahead and feel for any defects on this little washer that you see right here. And then we're going to replace it. All right. Using our fingers, we're going to add a little bit more grease on it, like so. Perfect. All right, now we're going to go ahead and set that aside. Okay. And we're going to start working on the roller, the line roller itself. Now, the easiest way, you have a sealed bearings on one side, and you have a plastic O-ring on the other. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and push that the bearings out first, just like so. That's the bearing. That's what it looks like. It's a sealed bearing. Go ahead and set that aside. And then we're going to flip it over and push out that O-ring gently. Don't do it so hard because it is made of carbon. All right. So that's what that looks like right there. Now you guys can go with grease or you can go with the oil. I'm going to go ahead and go with oil on this. Like so. Like so. Okay, now for the housing, the line roller housing, we're going to take a clean Q-tip. Go ahead and clean everything out, like so. Make sure that you get inside here because sometimes our, if you're using braid line, there's an accumulation of gunk that comes off the braid. I don't know what it is. It could be paint or something like that, but it has to come out because if it doesn't, it starts to accumulate really bad and eventually just causes problems for you down the road, especially when it comes to break off. So we want to make sure that's all nice and clean. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and oil that up. Perfect. Now we're going to replace our sealed bearings. That goes on the back end. Well, I should have told you guys first. You're going to notice that one side is flared out. It's pretty much like a cone. It's pretty much going like this, right? So it's one side is flared out and the other isn't. The bearings go on the side that isn't flared out, just like so. It'll fit nice and easy in there. The plastic ring goes on the other side, just like so. Okay, now we're going to replace the line roller back onto the bale itself. And the way we're going to do that is the roller part, the bearing part, goes towards this part, okay? The plastic goes here. So remember, bearing, plastic, all right? So we're just going to go like that. Perfect. We're going to put that back in. We're going to go ahead and re-screw that in. Okay, nice and tight. Next thing we're going to do is check our bale to make sure there's no nicks, scratches, or anything like that that's going to cause any damage to our line. This one seems to be perfect. Excellent. Now we're going to go ahead and start with our rotor covers. Let me see if I can show you that. Okay, right here. These are the rotor plastic covers. We're going to go ahead and remove those. All you got to do is remove one screw. That pops out. As you notice, one side has nothing in it. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of grease and we're just going to put it in there anyway. Okay? What's that going to do is going to help you prevent water buildup or anything like that. It's just a preventative measure. It's not going to do anything for this part because there's actually nothing in it. Okay? If you guys want, you can use it for a little survival. Put a couple of hooks or a little bit of line in there, use it for some survival deal. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to put that in. Back in there like that. Replace the screw. We're going to tighten it down, not over tightening, you just want it snug. Again, we're going to start with the other side. We're going to remove this cover. All you got to do is remove one little screw. Pops out. Now you're going to notice there is a wire right here. That's a bail wire and a bail spring. Now all you got to do, if you don't see any sand or dirt or anything like that, or if you haven't dunked it in water, you know, leave it alone, just put some grease on it. But if you have dunked it in water, you've seen sand in it, WD-40 as much as possible, let it dry out, and then start greasing and oiling, whatever you want to do right there. I'm just going to use oil. Okay. We're going to go ahead and replace the cover. We've pretty much covered the entire rotor. We still have to get underneath, wipe it down, and remove this steel shaft. I'm going to show you guys how to do that next. Alright you guys, before I even get started again, let me let you know that you guys can hit pause anytime, go back if I am going too fast for you or anything like that, or you just don't understand what I'm doing. Just hit pause, rewind, and you can go over it again with me. So right now we're going to go ahead and start removing the main rotor itself. Okay, and the way we're going to do that is we got to get this pin right here, the steel pin, all the way up as far as we can go, and there's a small screw right here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and remove that screw. Okay, now we have it out. Now we're going to use our needle nose pliers. Why are we using needle nose pliers? Because this nut right here that you're seeing right here is recessed in there. So it's kind of hard to get out using a standard pliers. So we're going to use our needle nose pliers. Now the way to do that is to go clockwise. Okay, like so. Once you loosen it up, we basically use our fingers to move that nut out. There we go. Like that. Okay. Now I don't know if you guys can see this. Let's see if I can get that out the way. But there is another washer right underneath that nut. Let's see if I can get it out the way. Alright, there you go. It's right here. There's another washer right there. Okay? We're going to leave that alone. Basically all we're going to do is slide this up. Okay, now that allows us to get into the main body of this reel. But first we need to remove the handle. And the way we do that, we're going to go ahead and slide this rotor back on. And we get that in there. There we go. And we're going to turn this knob right here counterclockwise. Until it comes out completely. Okay, now you guys notice that there is a little plastic piece right here. We don't want to lose that. That is the part that engages to to the gear teeth that are right here. That little plastic piece engages in that so your knob won't fly off. Okay, so what we're going to do, go ahead and remove the handle, and we're going to go ahead and replace the knob that was on it so we don't lose that little plastic piece. A couple of turns, set it aside. Okay, now we can get into the main body of this reel. Now there's 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, and 4. But here's the catch. You guys ready for the catch? You can't remove the main body unless you remove this plastic cover right here. Now there's a screw here, and there's a screw right back here in the handle. I don't know if you guys see that right there. So we got to remove the screw back here. Just to let you know, that screw is not going to come out completely. All you're doing is loosening up the screw, and it takes lets the cover come off easily. There we go. Keep turning it until it comes loose. As you notice, it doesn't come out. And then we're going to take this little screw off right here. That's going to pop out. Okay, go ahead and set that aside. And now we can remove that little cover. Like so. Now you can get to the main body of this reel. So we're going to remove the move the rotor up. Again, we got to move the shaft up all the way up, like so, and it should just pop out. So we can get, oh, the screw came back in there. Okay, hold on. There we go. There we go. Now we have to deal with the 4 screws. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All we got to do now is remove those 4 screws. Okay, now we're down to the last screw. We're just going to go ahead and remove that, like so. We're going to set those aside. Now we can remove the main cover by pulling up on this tab right here. It should just pop out nice and easy. There you go. Now you guys are going to notice there is a bearing. There's bearings right here. Okay, these are not sealed. So what you want to do is go ahead and take some grease and put it in there, like so. Now again, if you dunk this thing underwater, spray everything down first with WD-40, wipe it off, including the body itself, everything with WD-40, wipe it off. That's just going to displace the water. You don't have to worry about water being in there, rusting up your gears. Okay, now we have a problem. You can't remove the main gear right here unless you get the slide all the way down. So again, we have to put the rotor back on, turn it until that slide comes all the way down. Okay, this part is the slide. That's the slide pin. Okay, so we got to remove that one little screw right there to remove that slide. Perfect. We're going to set that aside. I'm telling you guys, be very careful where you put your screws, where they go, because if you mix match or anything, or if you lose one, it's going to be a lot of problems later. So right now, we need to remove this steel shaft. The only way to do that is going to be a little tough because it has to come out straight. If that slide moves even a little bit, it jams up the steel pin right there. Okay, there we go. Slides right out. Okay, now all we got to do is remove the slide. Oh, actually, we're going to remove the main gear right there. Then we're going to remove the pin, and the slide should follow with it. There's the pin. This is the slide. Okay. Now we can just remove the rotor. What we're going to do inside the rotor is we're going to go ahead and drop some oil in there. Again, it's not going to do anything for the reels, just maintenance, preventative maintenance. Use your finger if you want. You can use a cotton swab if you like. We're going to drop some oil inside here. Using a cotton swab, swab it all in there. Make sure everything is clean. Perfect. We're also going to drop some oil right here. That's where your pin is at. Now you know it's not going to rust up on you. I'm going to go all the way around, make sure everything is clean. Perfect. We have just done the entire top of this rotor. Okay? Now for the main body. We have to remove all the gears and bearings that are inside. This is also the part that holds your anti-reverse. Okay, and we do that by removing these 3 screws. Okay, now that we removed all 3 of those screws, we're just going to lift this washer up very carefully. Okay. And we're going to set that aside. Alright. Now you can see that we inside of the housing that holds your anti-reverse and some bearings in there. Now here's the kicker, man. I'm going to tell you right now, this is the kicker. I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's a very tiny spring right here. Super small. Alright. See that? We have to get that spring off, and it's connected over here by a loop. So the easiest way of doing that, hold your finger behind the spring so it doesn't pop out. Lift it up just carefully, taking a flat screwdriver, popping out the edge. There she is. Comes right out. No damage. And now we got the entire internal part of the housing removed. Alright. So here's a bearing right here. Bearing housing. This is your anti-reverse, which also has a bunch of bearings inside. And then you have another bearing right here. I'm not seeing any damage, but again, if you drop this thing in water, WD-40, the whole thing, make sure it's nice and clean, there's no grit or anything. Basically, all I'm going to do is throw some oil on there, okay, all the way around, making sure everything is lubed. I don't have to remove anything. Okay, just like so. And we're going to reinsert it just like that. Now what we're going to do here on the gears, these gears right here, we're going to go ahead and grease those up right now with grease. We don't want to use a lot of grease, just put some on there, making sure everything's greased up. Okay, like so. And now we're just going to reinsert it into the housing. Okay. Now if you sprayed this thing already down with WD-40 and you cleaned it all out, you're going to have to re-grease this part right here. You're going to have to put grease all in here, and you're going to have to wipe everything down, make sure everything's clean. Put some oil in there, you know, to help out with the water not getting on your gears or whatever. But we're going to get to that in a minute, so I'm going to show you. But first, let's go ahead and replace this. Now again, we're going to re-grease all this inside the housing. We're going to put grease inside here. We're going to put grease in those little holes where the screws went. That's going to help with rust prevention. And we're going to go ahead and drop that in there. Perfect. Okay. Now here's the thing again. Remember that little spring right there? We got to get it back on to that little pin right here. That's going to take you about 5-10 minutes to do because it's so small you can barely see it. So when I'm done, I'll let you know how it goes. Okay, I think I got it. It only took about 5 minutes to do. And there it is. Springs back on. Making sure it's all nice. There you go. Okay, now you see this spring right here? That's a tension spring for your anti-reverse. If that pops out, that's another 5-10 minutes of trying to figure out how to put it back in. So try not to try not to remove this, because that is worse than trying to put this on. All right. All you want to do, throw some oil on there. Make sure everything's working properly. Again, salt water prevention. Go ahead, put some more grease up here. Now we're going to go ahead and put that washer that we removed back on. Now if you guys notice, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 holes, okay? These 3 larger ones are for the screws. This one is for a little pin that's on your reel, and that is right here. You can see it right there. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's right there. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and put that little small hole onto that little pin first. Then we're going to line up the screw holes. All right, now if you've done this correctly, the washer will be completely flat against the housing of this this part right here. You see that? It's completely flat. That's exactly where it goes. So basically all we got to do now is replace the screws, tighten them down. Okay. Now when you're tightening down these screws, you don't want to tighten it too hard. You just want it to be snug. Okay. Once it starts turning, you're done. Now take a look all the way around again, making sure that that washer is completely flat with the housing of that part. Everything looks good. These springs are still there. Everything's still clicking. Perfect. Okay. Now the next thing we're going to do is remove this gear. There's a small screw right here. All you got to do is unscrew it by turning counterclockwise. Okay. Go ahead and remove that. Using your flathead screwdriver, we're just going to pop that up gently. Oh, you can just flip it, I think. Let me see. Nope, it doesn't want to flip. There we go. Okay, now we have it out. Now you guys are going to notice it has a little peg right there. Okay, that's for the slide. That's where the slide goes on. And basically all we're going to do is clean this off, make sure everything's copacetic. You don't have any broken teeth or any sand or grit. We're going to place a little oil on there. I'm just using my fingers, putting it around the teeth. I'm going to go on top of that as well. I'll go ahead and set that aside. I'm going to take a Q-tip, clean that out. Now, if you guys notice, there is another bearing right here. That's a sealed bearing. So basically a little drop of oil in there, just on that bearing. And we're going to go ahead and put some grease around that. Just like that. Okay. We're going to go ahead and replace it. The peg side up. Okay. Replace the screw. And screw it back down. Remember, don't over tighten, just until it's snug. Perfect. It should be able to move easily. There you go. Now we're going to go ahead and start with our main gear. Again, we're going to clean it all out, which I've already done. We're going to go ahead and put some grease on it. You can use your finger or a brush, whichever you like. Make sure you get everything, all the gears, like so, and including the top. That's just going to help with the rust prevention. I don't know if you guys can see that, but there is a washer, very small washer right here. You don't want to remove that, just leave that there. It's a little brass washer that's right there. Okay, that's pretty much good to go. We're going to go ahead and clean out our slide. Okay, again, Q-tip, clean that all out. If you want, you can add grease or oil, whichever you like. I'm going to put a little oil in there. I'm just going to wipe that around. Make sure everything's covered. Set that aside. Go ahead and clean off your pin, your slide pin. And now we're going to replace the slide pin. The slide pin goes right here. There's a groove right here, and there's another groove up here. All we're going to do is pop that in, like so. Okay. We're going to make sure this little pin that you see right here is going to be facing down. And this little groove part, there's a little groove right there, that goes into the slide pin. And the slide goes right over that groove, that little notch that was on top of the gear. Okay, we're going to set it all the way to the bottom, like that. Okay, you guys, now that we have the slide back in place, all the way to the bottom, we're going to go ahead and put the main gear back on. We're going to put our rotor back on. This is the easiest part of the whole deal. We just got to put everything back together now. We're going to put the steel shaft back in, and it goes right back into that slide. Okay, so if we don't have that slide perfectly straight, the steel shaft won't go in. There you go, we got it in. Replace the screw. See, there we go. Go ahead and tighten that down. Don't over tighten it, just until it's snug. There we go. Remove that rotor until the shaft moves up. We're going to go ahead and replace the cover. We're going to go ahead and put the screws back on. Okay. Like so. And we're just going to go ahead and tighten that down. Okay. Now that we've tightened down the last screw, like so, we're going to go ahead and replace our rotor. Okay. We're going to take that nut that we have right there. It's still there. We're going to bring it down. Looks like the grease caught it up there. Okay, there we go. We're going to go clockwise just to level it with the bolt that's on the bottom. Perfect. And then we're going to go counterclockwise to tighten it down. But first we have to level it off. There we go. Now we're going counterclockwise. We're going to take our needle nose pliers, tighten that down. Okay. We're going to replace the screw that's right here. Okay. Then we're going to replace the cap that goes on the bottom. Okay, Now we're going to put a little oil right here on this handle, a little bit over here, a little bit up in here. Make sure everything's running good. You're also going to put a little drop right here. Make sure that's spinning good. Like I said, don't worry about you over greasing it. We are going to wipe the whole thing down. Replace the handle assembly. Tighten it back down. Replace the spool. Tighten that down. You want to tighten it all the way down at first and then loosen it. That's going to help spread all the oil out on the drags. And I just want to loosen it. And there you guys go. How's that? And that's how you service the Piscifun Venom VM4000. Alright guys, till next time, have a good one. Keep chasing wild.